Welcome to Sitter Confessional. We are brought to you by Time to Pet and Pet Perennials. Today we're talking with project manager turned dog walker and pet sitter Kimberly Layman, owner of Kimberly's Kritter Care, about how she brought over her organizational skills and structure into her business, how she spent a lot of time refocusing to make the business something that she truly wants, how to build trust with your clients from the very beginning, and how to be fearless when asking for a review. Let's get started.
Yes, Colin, thanks so much for having me. Like you said, my name is Kimberly, and I run Kimberly's Kritter Care in Charleston, South Carolina. And we have been in business since 2016. So we're going on 7 years. It'll be 7 years in December. It's we do pet sitting and dog walking primarily. And I got started basically just kind of was in the corporate world. I was a project manager for the medical industry for many years and just kind of wanted us to change. And so I started a little bit on the side doing some rover, just doing some visits here and there just to kind of get my feet wet, see if I liked it, because obviously I love pets. And I thought, well, this is a good way to make a little extra money and kind of see what happens. And I liked it so much that I was like, maybe I could make a business of this. And at the time, I really didn't know that, pet sitting and dog walking was a thing. I knew people did it, but I didn't know you could actually make a business and, make a living out of it. So it was kind of just, let's just try this and see what happens. My boyfriend has his own business, so that kind of encouraged me to give it a try. So I did. And, years later, here I am. So it's been a great transition.
You were a project manager in the medical field. What did you bring over and into your business from that world?
Well, I definitely have a lot of organizational skills. So I think on the back end of the business, that definitely helped. The admin part and the scheduling and the logistics and all of that, I think definitely my project management background helped with that piece. Didn't really help with the pet care part, but that just kind of comes naturally. But yeah, definitely all the admin stuff.
Which is the one that most of us struggle with, right? And
Yeah.
part of project management is yes, the organization, but it's also the breakdown, the staying on task, the staying organized and timely in knowing what pieces to pull in. And all of a sudden, many of us, we come into and we're running a business, and there's a lot of little moving pieces that we all of a sudden are tasked with taking care of.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I'm very task oriented because of that. So my SOPs are like really long and like some of my staff probably likes, oh my gosh, she has all these little check things and like my little reports in Time to Pet. I have a ton of little check boxes and stuff, to check off to make sure we did everything. But I think that helps because some people need that. So and it makes me feel better knowing that everything's done.
Yeah. Well, those check boxes are so great because one, they're nice for the client to see, but for like just selfishly, like it's great for me to remember, oh yeah, did I do that? And that's just these little prompts of trying to set ourselves up for success of going, okay, if I need to remember this, what do I need to do other than just really trying super hard to remember, right? Like that's not going to be good.
Exactly. Especially those little things like, that only do once a week, like take out the trash or the recycling or something like that. It may not be something that you always think about when you're doing a visit, but having it kind of there on a checklist or on a flag in your app definitely helps to remind you of that.
So if someone's listening to this and they struggle with things like task management, keeping projects on task and moving forward, what's some advice that you would give to them? And yes, I am taking notes.
I think definitely, like I mentioned, having good standard operating procedures or SOPs in place, especially when you have staff and have to train them, when it's you, the business owner doing all the work, I think it's a little easier. But when you want to train other people to do that, I think it's important to have those SOPs in place so that they know step by step what's expected of them. And then I also have, like I mentioned, I use Time to Pet as my pet sitting software. And in there, on your reports, you can customize those. So you can set, I set things like, gave fresh water, scooped litter box, gave medication, just different little things like that. And even like, rotated lights, open, closed blinds, ensured all doors are locked, just little things like that, I'll be honest, when I first started, I had left someone's door unlocked before and they came home. They're like, oh my gosh, I got home and my door was unlocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So that's what prompted me to start putting those little things that should be second nature, but sometimes they're not. And just having to physically check that box, I think helps remind people to do those little things that even though we do them at almost every single visit, it's still a nice little reminder. Because if you have to go in and check it, it's like, oh, okay, well, did I really lock that back door before I left? So sometimes I'll go back in and check just to make sure. So I think that's key, just like I said, having the SOPs outlined and having those update check boxes and stuff just to make sure everybody clicks those.
What I hear when you say that, Kimberly, it's getting all those little bits of information out of your brain, out of your own brain, right? And putting them somewhere else, because we have a lot going on, right? And sometimes we didn't get as much coffee as we needed, or maybe we got too much. Maybe the lights didn't work for that morning, or maybe that first dog was really bad. And now we are still demanding our brain keep all of those little tiny intricate details and all of those little things in place. And I would recommend, even if you are a solo sitter and you want to stay solo, still write out your SOPs, because then you'll really start to see right in front of you physically where holes are, what you're missing, maybe where you can expand, where you can dig deeper into those, where you thought you were doing something, but now when you're laying it out there, you go, oh, that's actually not what I would like to get. And having those reminders it allows you to, with more surety, go, yes, that is what I did.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, over time, I think your SOPs are like a living document, you're constantly changing them. And I've learned so much over the years, just to add things on there. So mine continues to grow and is like, oh yeah, I never thought about that because this one client brought it up. And so now I'm like, yes, we need to make sure we do X, Y, Z, on all of our future visits. So yeah, I think definitely, like you said, even if you're solo, it's important to have that because we all make mistakes. We're human. And, like I said, I had left someone's door unlocked before, or, forgot to turn a light on for, whatever little things that, but the door unlocked is kind of not a little thing, but still it makes, makes you think. And before you actually leave, and I always tell my sitters too, make sure you send that report before you leave the property. You can sit in your car and do it or sit in the house and do it, but always make sure you send that beforehand. So I think that too is kind of a reminder that, hey, make sure you did all of these things.
Yeah. But not before the visit's done, because that's another thing that I know I have personally done, where I've written the report, everything's great and shiny and wonderful, and then I go to lock the door and it like shatters or like something happens and you're like, oh no, I need to send an awkward update now.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely want to make sure that it's done and you're ready to go before you send that update.
When you make those little mistakes, or when you have staff make those little mistakes, Kimberly, how do you process those? Kind of what's your way that you work through those when they come up?
Meaning, like, how do I handle it with the clients or with the staff?
But well, then I was also curious, just personally too, how you do that? Yeah.
Ugh. Like I said, we're all human and we're going to make mistakes. So I think it's just, you have to forgive yourself or your staff or whatever. But, also it's a good training moment too, if it's with staff, to say, hey, it's all right. You messed this one up, but next time let's do better. Let's use this as a lesson to make sure that you do, whatever it is before you leave, and to make sure you don't send that report until everything is done and checked off. And then, for me personally, like I said, that one time I left someone's door unlocked, that was, I definitely learned more from my mistakes. So I think that, having that, that definitely caused me to make these reports and make sure that those little things are done, because they're not little things to a client. Coming home to a door unlocked, that's not a little thing, even though it may seem like a little thing to us. It's, somebody could not break into their house, but walk into their house. So, so yeah, I just think that the best way is to learn from the mistakes, to train. I'll even, sometimes whether I do it or one of the staff members do it, I use that as a training opportunity for everyone, and I don't call the person out. I just say, hey, as a little friendly reminder, make sure you're always locking the door before you leave and double checking, like pull on the door and make sure it's locked, for instance.
And I know that can feel weird and awkward of going, well, I don't want to call people out on this or make them feel or like it's a passive aggressive thing, but really just taking it as a teaching moment because if one person is struggling with it, I guarantee you more people are. Or I guarantee you it's
Absolutely.
time for a reminder of just, hey, just as a reminder, hey, make sure that we go to page 72 of the field manual, go to where whatever it is, right? Like just pointing people back to that because we can become so distant and removed from aspects of our business, and our staff can as well. Just showing something to one person one time isn't enough. It's a continual process of reminding and prompting and educating.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually, excuse me, thinking about kind of doing like a weekly, just a little training thing, whether it's either on Slack or, recording a Loom or something like that, or even doing like a weekly Zoom with my staff, just kind of little training tidbits every single week. So then it's not like, hey, somebody made a mistake yesterday, so I'm going to call it out. So it's just kind of like a continuous thing every week.
Yeah, that's actually what we do. We do Monday meetings, and those staff who can attend can. If they can't, it's recorded, and then we send those out to them. And pro tip: if you're sending things through Loom, you can rename it to be the person's name, and then you send that link to that person so that you know that they watched it.
Oh, very
Yeah,
cool. Thank you.
you can also use a call to action button at the very end of which is what we used to do, where they hit it and then they have to sign a form to say that they watched it. But some people don't make it all the way to the last couple seconds and whatever. But that way you can rename it, and that way I know, Sarah watched the video and Dave didn't, and so we can follow up with them to get more feedback from. Now, it does mean if you have like 20 staff or even 10, it can get a little complicated because you're making 10 copies. But at least if you're like for really, really important ones, it helps us know for sure that we can follow up.
No, that's great. Appreciate that tip.
uh, so you started in 2016, and then about 5 years in, about this 2020, 2021 time frame, you started to have some changes in how you felt about your business, right?
Yes, kind of just, got a little burnt out. And I think COVID probably played a part in that, because everybody's business, I'm sure, went way down. So it was kind of like, well, I'm not working that much now. And it's just, I was kind of floundering, kind of wondering what I was going to do, if I was going to stay with my business, if I was going to, get a regular job, if I was going to try something else. So it was a struggle for a while. So, definitely put some thought into it and just kind of racked my brain with what I was going to do, because at the time, I don't think many of us were making a lot of money.
No. What was it? Was it the aspect that income was down? Was it, I mean, when you think about that, of all those different, you rattled off several things there. Business is down, it's floundering, you weren't doing the work, right, that you were passionate about. What do you think was really, or maybe it was all of them combined, I don't know, for you, like really the driving factor of what you were really struggling with at that time?
Honestly, I think it probably was mostly that business was down, and the aspect that I'm talking about is like I was so used to being busy all the time and then
Mhm.
I wasn't. And I don't know how you are, but like if I have too much free time, it's not a good thing. I mean, obviously you need to take care of yourself and have time for yourself, but if I have too much, it's almost like I feel like I don't know, I struggle with what to do with my time, I guess is probably the best way to put that. And so I was kind of struggling and just didn't really know what to do with myself because I had, had all these daily dog walks previously and was doing pet sitting as well. So I was busy in the mornings, afternoons, and evenings. And then here all of a sudden, no one was traveling. Most all of my daily dog walks had canceled. I mean, I still had a few people because I'm in the South. So things weren't as tightly locked down as in some parts of the country. So we did open back up fairly quickly, but people were still a little more cautious with their travel. So during that time, it just, it kind of, I just didn't know what to do with my time. And that kind of caused me to lose focus of the business because I wasn't as passionate about it at that point because I guess it wasn't there. You know what I mean?
It's hard to stay on focused on something that's kind of disappeared. That's definitely
Exactly.
I taught in college for a little bit, and I saw this with high school students who came out who were so married to the strict schedule of a high school program. And then they get in college and all of a sudden it's a little like, whoa, you don't have to show up. And sometimes it's lots of time in between things. And they were like, what, like they were completely ungrounded. And then when people graduate, they're like, oh, now I'm in a business world. And what do I do? And as a business owner, I'm the exact same way, Kimberly. I had a couple hours where I could have done just kind of anything last night. I just laid in bed and was like, what? I like, and like struggled to stay on task or do one thing or switch to the other. It was really hard for me to focus. I find whenever I am more time constrained, I'm more productive. And that whenever
Yes.
the walls get separated and moved out and my calendar is clear, I will get nothing done. I will absolutely nothing done.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one. That's exactly the way I am. And it's difficult. I need to have those time. And I think that comes from the project management background too, is like you always have those deadlines and those things you have to get done and it's pressure. And when I'm not under pressure, I flounder. It's like, I don't know. It's weird.
It is because some of this is external motivating, some of it's internal motivating, some of it is internally and externally regulating of ourselves and kind of needing that, and part of that's just understanding how we operate and knowing those signs of, okay, I'm this is happening. What do I do? Which I think is the biggest thing of like, okay, once I see these signs and I am feeling like I'm floundering and nothing's getting done and I'm kind of spiraling now because if you're like me, once you stop being productive, then you're like a little bit depressed at yourself that you're not productive and you feel bad that you're not doing that. So you're more likely to get stymied and stuck in this mire and even makes it even worse.
Yes, correct.
So, so what did you do to get out of that?
Well, I think I just kind of had a mind shift change, just like I really need to decide if I'm going to do this business and really build it or if I'm going to move on to something else. So at that point, I was like, okay, I really want to make a go of this. I want to make it work. I'm passionate about this business and I want to grow it. And so that's when I put an ad out and I hired a few people. Prior to that, just to step back, I had only had one IC. So I started using ICs because it was kind of industry standard back when I started.
Yeah.
And so I had one IC, and then I decided when I started hiring that I wanted to switch over to employees because I had heard a lot of horror stories about ICs. So decided to switch to employees. So I moved my current IC to an employee, and she was fine with that once I explained it all to her.
Okay.
And then everybody else moving forward was hired as an employee. So I hired my first few employees, and one of them is still with me. The other three are not. So, that's always fun going through the open door kind of thing with the hiring. So I wanted to refocus on the business, hire the staff, get them trained because obviously you can't really train an IC. So I wanted them trained to do things, the way I thought they should be done. And that's when I started, kind of refocusing on the business, really growing it, and started taking on more new clients, started marketing efforts, and just really kind of reinvested myself and put forth all the effort I could into the business. And that's when we really started to grow. Even though it was, post COVID, I think it was in May of 2020. I had probably one of my best months since I had been in business. And part of that was because I had, I'm sorry, not 2020, May of 21, had my best month. And it was because I had some more staff members. So, through those marketing efforts had gotten a lot more clients. Some of the solo people had shut down because of COVID. So probably got some business from that. And then once things started building and taking off, then I really got excited and kind of it reignited my passion for the business. So that's when I continued to hire and continued to market and just continued to grow. And then things just kind of exploded. So
sometimes we need those little wins. And I'm just in general, these wins to reignite that. We do need to start seeing things firing and working and making movement. And it is this kind of positive feedback loop of the more we start getting these little successes and these little wins in, the more we're invigorated by this, the more we're spurred on to continue to invest and pour ourselves back into the thing that we built.
yes, absolutely. 100%. And now I'm just like full force into it. I have my days where it's like, but then like you said, something will reignite me. But overall, yeah, I'm definitely passionate about my business and growing it from here forward.
Have you heard of Time to Pet? Doug from Bad to the Bone Pet Care has this to say.
Time to Pet has made managing my team and clients so much easier. Our clients love the easy-to-use app and scheduling features, and our sitters love being able to have all of their information organized and easily accessible. My favorite feature is the instant messaging. By keeping conversations on Time to Pet, we are able to monitor our team and ensure nothing ever falls through the cracks.
If you're looking for new pet sitting software, give Time to Pet a try. Listeners of our show can save 50% off your first 3 months by visiting timetopet.com/confessional. And you said that all started because you reached a point where you decided, I'm either going to do this or I'm not, right? And so kind of what was the dividing line between those for you?
Yeesh, that's a good question. I don't know that I had a specific thing. I just, I think I just decided that, yeah, I need to do this because like I said, I really love what I do. I love helping people care for their pets. And I just decided that, that's what I want to do. And honestly, I didn't really want to go back to a 9 to 5. I would have if I had to pay the bills,
Yeah.
but I said, here's my opportunity to see if I can really make this work and make a living off of this business. So, I did it and it worked. And now I'm very happy that I decided to go that route rather than going back to the corporate world. So.
Well, I think we've all had a moment or several moments like that where we're looking at how far we've come, and we have to go. Is it worth? Do I want to keep moving? Right? Is this something that I'm still interested in? I'm still invested in? And I think it's important to ask ourselves that question, even when we're not in a crisis, right? Right? Even when we're not struggling, if it's an annual thing or whatever, or you've got set time blocks or whatever, however you want to structure that. It's okay to ask yourself, is this something I still want to be doing? Is this still something I'm passionate that I'm invested in? Because then we're staying on top of ourselves. We're staying more in tune with how we're feeling. And it can help us make some of these decisions of going, okay, yeah, I'm still invested in this and I still want to meet these goals. So let's double down.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's very important, especially this day and age where so many people experience burnout from their jobs and so forth. And being a business owner is not for, the faint of heart. So I think it's important to do that. Like you said, at least an annual check-in with yourself and just, see how things are going, do that pulse check.
Yeah, we do it with our business, right? We look at our financials, we look at the annual, year over year, blah, 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 spreadsheets and all that stuff. And if you're not doing that, like just at least look at some numbers, right? But then we should also be checking in with ourselves and going, yeah, how do I feel like? And I used to do this with the kids that I taught before I gave them their test grades back. I'd always ask, how do you feel like you did on this test? Right? How do you feel like this? What did you struggle with? Okay, now let's look at your grade and let's compare and contrast a little bit why we're feeling these differences here of going, okay, how do you feel like this last year went? Okay, now let's look at some numbers and let's figure it out, because you may have actually had a down year, quote unquote, where you made less, but man, you felt amazing. You had more free time. You really enjoyed it. And so, okay, well, let's try and get some of that back into this, and just comparing how you're feeling versus what the business is telling you is another way to compare that.
Definitely. Great idea.
Now, you mentioned your team, and I did want you to tell us a little bit about them and kind of how do you have them structured and how you actually are using your employees in your business.
Okay. So I currently have 6 employees, and I'm definitely on the hunt for new ones. I like
Same.
kind of going with maybe 8, 9-ish. So that's my goal. But yeah, so my current employees, we have a pretty broad territory. We're spread out in like 3 different counties, but everything's connected.
Okay.
I know it sounds like a lot, but we don't do the whole county of all 3. We do parts of each of those counties. So, but it's a pretty spread out territory. So like to get from one end to the other is probably about 40 minutes or so, depending on traffic, and traffic can be a bear sometimes.
Okay.
So I kind of have, when I do hire, I try to focus on hiring in a certain area to cover, those sits in that area. But I have like 2 employees down in the lowest part of my territory and then 1 up in the top part. And then the other 3 are kind of centrally located. So, so I guess just trying to organize that when I do schedule sits, I try to get obviously the person who's closest. And like I mentioned earlier, I use Time to Pet, and each of our clients have a primary sitter assigned to them and then at least 2 backups. And that's location based. So, I always try to get that first primary sitter schedule because number one, they're the most familiar with them. Plus they're the closest in mileage because we do reimburse mileage for our employees. So, so I try to get that closest person, but then if it's not available, it'll fall to the next one or the next one. Now there are occasions where I may have that person at the top of the territory. You have to go to the bottom because there's just no one else available. And that happens from time to time. So that's something I kind of struggle with. I've thought about tightening up my territory from time to time, but then I'm like, I hate to lose those clients that are on the outskirts. So, and then I also think about, well, maybe I should expand and hire more people in those outer areas. So I struggle with that all the time internally, like which way should I go? So we'll see what happens down the road. But yeah, as far as how we structure things, I mean, right now, just we have everybody that's kind of the same. They do pet sits and whatnot. I do all of the admin work currently. I do have a VA that I recently hired about a month ago, who is actually located in Missouri. And she does some of the scheduling for me and things like that, and is helping to kind of fine tune my SOPs. But otherwise, I do all the other back end stuff, the admin work. And then the staff, basically they just do the visits or the bulk of the visits. So like I said, I try to keep everybody close to their home within about 5 to 8 miles, but sometimes that doesn't all play out well. So you got somebody that calls in sick or their car breaks down or they're on vacation. So, and then that's when it comes to me filling in sometimes as well, which is not necessarily the goal, but someone's got to do it.
So when you get a client in, you assign that primary sitter, so they would do all visits, 3 a day or 4 a day or however many that visits that client needs for their duration of their trip.
Sometimes we split it up. I do have 3 of my sitters who have full-time jobs, so they only work primarily nights and weekends. Okay. And then the other 3, their only job is with me, even though it's not full time, but this is the only job they work. So they have more availability to do, the 3 times. Now, the one girl doesn't work in the evenings and then one doesn't work weekends. So it's like everybody has their own kind of schedule. So that's something that we have to play with as well, when we're scheduling things. So there are times when 2 or 3 people, like with the client is on vacation, 2 or 3 people will do their sits and split it up. So that definitely happens. Probably more often than not. I do have one girl who is more than willing to do all 3 and do all the visits, but others kind of have their times that they like to work. And I'm fine with that as long as I have coverage.
Yeah, and it really is starting to look at availabilities, putting together the puzzle. When can people work? When can people not work? How do I make this work? And and I'm sure part of that is just asking them and getting that in writing of like, what are you committing to when you come work for me?
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes, when they first start on, I'll be honest, they say, "Oh yeah, I can do any of those hours. Yes, we can do it all." And then once they realize they get into it, they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to do the night hours, or I don't want to do the early morning hours or the weekend." So we adjust it as we go. And, I'm fine with that. As long as they're upfront and honest with me and tell me, then I can block their schedules. And then, I tell them too, like maybe in an emergency, I might call you and say, "Hey, can you do this one visit on the night time or the weekend? I know you don't normally do it, but would you be okay doing that to help us out?" And usually they're okay with that. They just don't want to do it on a regular basis. So I just think, laying that out for them and finding out what their needs are and what they're, what they want to work. Because I obviously want them to be happy and not leave. I would rather adjust someone's scheduling than to have them leave and go somewhere else because they're not happy.
Yeah, that's really we've dealt with that a couple times, and we're going through that right now of doing a schedule adjust of the person is still wants to work, just is struggling to have this balance and needs a little bit more flexibility back in their days, and because they do work another job, full-time job. And so we're working with them to go, okay, I still want you here, you're still valuable to the team, really appreciate everything you contribute. We'll just pull down. Now that means that now we either have to expand hours from other staff members or hire somebody to cover additionally, but that's why we're doing that aspect, and they're committing to what they can.
Yeah, a valuable employee is, you want to do whatever you can to keep them. So if it means saying that they don't work any more weekends or whatever the case may be, then you usually try to accommodate that, so that, because it's much easier to keep a happy employee than to go out and find a new one. So that's definitely key.
Well, I know you're in that process of looking for a few more staff members. What do you look for when you go, I need an employee for Kimberly's care? What does that person look like to you?
So for me, I don't really look for pet experience necessarily, because I think you can train somebody how to walk a dog, how to scoop a litter box, how to give medications and whatnot. So I look for more like the personality type traits. I definitely want somebody who is passionate about caring for animals, but they don't necessarily have to have cared for them before. So I think that they have to be passionate about it. They have to be committed. They have to be, I look for things like what I use Indeed for my hiring.
Yeah.
So on there, you can have them do like little recordings about what motivates them to work, and ask them about conflicts they've had in the past and things like that. So I really listen to those and read what they write, or listen to what they say. And you can kind of pick up on things like how they handle certain situations and things like that. Like if they tell me they don't handle conflict well, then I'm probably not going to hire them. I mean, I still may talk to them if they are good on paper otherwise, but I think you really have to just listen for those little things, because, there can be conflict at this job, just like any job. So if they don't handle that well, then they may not be a good fit. So I kind of just go with my gut a lot. I know that's probably not a great answer for everyone, but it's really what I do. I mean, the way my hiring process is, I do the initial Indeed ad. Like I said, they can do those recordings to answer those few questions. I review their resume. If I'm interested at that point, I schedule just a quick phone call with them. Not really an interview, just more like a chat to get to know them a little better. Usually lasts about 10 minutes. And then there I kind of take a lot of notes on how they respond to things and questions they may or may not ask. And at that point, I decide if I want to move on to a face-to-face interview. And there, I think it's really important to read their body language. And, I have a series of questions I ask them. Not a lot of them are pet related. It's more like, just how they handle certain things and what they've done in their previous jobs in certain situations. So it's, like I said, it's not really certain qualities necessarily that I'm looking for. It's just, I don't know, it's kind of a whole package.
Yeah, well, you said a phrase there of you did that quick chat, and I think we need to really pay attention. You said you did not say I write down their answers. You wrote how they responded. So you're writing things down about like tone. Did they pause? How, what was the expressions that they were giving you throughout this process? What was the emotions that they were bringing to this? How did they, and the follow-up questions? It's these reading, it's reading the person, right? Because that's the other aspect, and that's the mistake that we made when we first started hire. We didn't do that. We were like, okay, we have the right answer in our brain, and they're going to tell us or they're not, and then I'm going to hire them or not. Like that's what we did. Like, just a right answer to how you walk a dog, and you're going to tell it to me, and that's going to dictate. And we got some great people, but like we also got some people who were just terrible fits because we weren't paying attention to how they answered tell us about a stressful situation in your life and how you handled it. Like, did that person come up with were they thoughtful about that? Were they flippant whenever they responded to that? Were they disrespectful to other people when they described the other party in the situation? All of that is critical because now we're bringing people into a people environment. Yeah, we don't see everybody all the time, but we're constantly interacting, and we know maybe, and you said I might not hire somebody depending on how they have a conflict, and someone may think, well, I'm not going to have conflict with this person. What do you mean? It's like, well, you're going to have conflict at some point.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is just more like I said, it's kind of a gut feeling and just a read on people. I think you have to get really good at reading people, even over the phone, but it's easier in person, obviously, because you can see their expressions and whatnot. But I just think that that's the key in hiring. Like I know a lot of people say they want people that are experience with pet sitting or dog walking. But honestly, to me, I almost would rather have people that don't have that experience, because then they don't have any preconceived notions as to how to do things. And sometimes they think they know how to do it better than the way we do it. So I personally prefer people that don't have a lot of experience.
And then if you do have that person who has all of this experience, and we encountered this not too long ago. This person came in super qualified, like all of these certificates and training and all this stuff was one of. But then we were like, okay, what are we going to be listening to from this person? We wanted to ask in questions that were more: is this person teachable? Is this person going to accept guidance, correction from us? And we very quickly learned no. This and
They knew better, right?
they knew that, and it wasn't that what they did was wrong. They weren't doing in opposition to the things of how we operated, but we knew we would be unable to take a concern to this individual and go, you didn't do this, or this that would have been disaster. And so that was something that we couldn't move forward with.
Yeah, definitely. They need to be able to handle the constructive criticism and take, guidance and training from you. So that's important.
And to get at that, sometimes you can ask those questions kind of just on the head, like put nail in the head and going, yeah, when was the last time you got feedback or criticism, and how did you handle that? You can ask that question, right? Or you can ask more roundabout ways of getting to that. And that's just kind of where the art form of doing an interview comes in, of kind of knowing how to get at various aspects. And it's a lot of trial and error, unfortunately.
Definitely. Yeah. I kind of started out like you. I had my list of standard interview questions, and I didn't necessarily have a right or wrong answer, but I just didn't really delve into like the psychological part, or those kind of social situations and stuff. So over time, I've developed a lot more questions that I like to use in an interview, as opposed to the standard pet sitting questions, if you will.
Now, that's a little bit about your staff. Obviously, you're hiring staff so that you can service your clients well. And one of your core tenets of your company is to have the clients trust you and to build that trust. How do you go about doing that? Because I know that's like one of the biggest factors of the businesses that we run, is that trust.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're in people's houses and taking care of their family members. So yeah, definitely a key is trust. But I think trust starts with the initial interaction, whether that be a phone call or, filling out a form on your website, and how you respond to that. I think that's how you start to build that trust. Also on your website in general, showing client reviews, and pictures of you and your staff with pets, things like that help to build trust as well. But definitely, like I said, with that initial, okay, just a step back, sorry. I do have a form on my website. It's called the Get Started form. It's kind of like the intake. They give me the information. Where do you live? What kind of pets do you have? What kind of care do you need? Blah, blah, blah. So usually what happens when they fill out that form, either one of two things: either we have a responder thing that goes through our website that sends them back, thank you for filling out the form. We'll get back to you shortly with any questions. So I always try to call them back, because I think it's important to have that initial conversation with them, rather than just going back and forth in email or text or what have you, because that can just be very impersonal. So I like that personal touch, and I do all the calls right now for the company. So I try to call them just to have a little bit of a conversation, set that tone initially. And I not tooting my own horn, but I feel like I have like the ability to put people at ease, just conversationally. So I think that they always feel a little better after talking with me, even if they've already seen our website and all that. And then, of course, the next step, once you find out that they're a good candidate and they still, like you and want to hire you, then you go to that, we call it a new client consultation. Some people call it a meet and greet, what have you. I typically do about 95% of those, because I think as the face of the company, it's important for them to meet me and trust me. And at that meeting, I explain the team concept and all that good stuff. I do usually try to have the primary sitter go with me so that they can meet them if they're available. If they're not, then I will do it myself, which is fine. And I think that that's where you really build that trust. That's the key to solidifying that trust, I guess, is meeting them in person. I've had so many clients tell me after meeting with me in person, it's like I feel so much better now leaving my pets in your care, and even if they never met the sitter that's going to do it, they just feel, I think, better once I kind of set their mind at ease and go through. And I have a checklist that we go through again, for our initial consults. And, we review everything, like show me where this is, show me where that is. If their pets are on medication, I usually have them show me how they do it, things like that. So there's just so many little things that we cover. So I think that makes them feel more at ease. And then, of course, we're bonded and insured and all that. And we talk about that during the meeting. So I think that makes them feel more at ease as well.
Our friends at Pet Perennials make it easy to send a heartfelt condolence gift directly to someone with a broken heart. They have this awesome direct-to-consumer gift model that takes the effort off of us and ensures a thoughtful, personalized sympathy gift reach our client or employee on our behalf. All gift packages include a handwritten card, colorful gift wrap, and shipping fees across both the US and Canada. They also offer an array of milestone gifts and greeting cards that can be sent to celebrate birthdays, extend get well wishes, and welcome new and rescued pets. Additionally, there are gift choices in case you need to send a sympathy gift in memory of a special human client or celebrate a pregnancy, engagement, or wedding of a pet lover. If you're interested, register for a free business gift perks account to unlock the all-inclusive discounted package prices. Since the service is used on an as-need basis, there are no monthly or annual obligations or minimum purchases. Learn more at petperennials.com, check out their business programs, or register for that free gift perks account using the link in the show notes. I know you use Time to Pet. At what point are they going in and filling out their profile, or are you doing that for them?
I do. I have them do it. I don't do that because I need them to be comfortable with the system. So, like I said, we start with that intake form, that get started form on the website. And then after that initial chat on the phone, then I set up an account for them in Time to Pet, send them the link, and tell them that they need to complete everything prior to that consultation in person. So they do all of that.
Okay. Yeah, and I like that a little bit of this psychology too of going, no, they need to be, they're going to be the one booking the services. If that's our endpoint, if we don't want to be taking phone calls or emails or text messages, we want them to be using the software, they are going to have to use it at some point, right? And going, here, tell me, and one of the easiest ways is to go, tell me about your pets, right? Now they're engaged, right? They like answering this stuff, so they're more apt to use the software than whenever it's the drudgery of scheduling or whatever, the boring stuff. Now at least they're in there.
Yeah, and I explained to them on that initial phone call with them the importance of filling everything out. I said, it's going to take you a while because I ask a lot of questions, but we need this to properly care for your pets. So then they're like, okay, no problem. And most of them fill it all out. I've had one or two that just struggle with it and, maybe forget to hit save and then they have to do it all again and they get frustrated. So for those people, I'll usually make an exception. And when I go to do the new client consultation, I'll either take my iPad or do it with them on their computer and help them go through it. But I still want them to do it. I don't do it for them.
But at least you're there to have that oversight, right? And I think what's key there is going, what do I want the exception to the rule be, right? Is the exception is, I'm going to be a bit more hands-on here through this. The rule is clients are more autonomous. They're putting this information in. Plus, the aspect that they can go in and update that at any time is crucial because now they're more comfortable with that. That's what you want. You want to encourage this good behavior. It's all this training. Onboarding is not just, I've learned this more and more. Onboarding is not just a process of getting us to walk their dog. It's also about training the client to your company expectations.
Absolutely. Definitely. So yeah, I think it's definitely key. And, like I'll have a client still occasionally text me and say, do you have availability for this? And I'm like, well, you need to put the request in because, 9 times out of 10, we're going to have availability with staff. There's very few times we don't, maybe on a holiday, but for the most part, we have availability. So put your request in. And if for some reason we can't do it, we'll let you know. Because I always try to train people, do all communications through the software. Don't text me because if I'm not around, then that message is going nowhere.
Or if you're like me, you look at the text and you go, wow, that's really important. anyway. And then like 2 days later, you're scrolling through and you go, oh no, I didn't. Oh no.
I'm really bad about that. Sounds like we have similar ways that we do things.
And so it's why it's so important to just not, we have enough to worry about as business owners. We've got a lot on our minds. Worrying about missing a visit or missing a scheduling for a visit. Let's back way up. Let's not even say a visit at this point. We're talking about a schedule request. That's not something that I am willing to worry about. So it just needs to sit in an email or on a dashboard or somewhere that's going to alert me whenever it's up there. And I know I'm always going to see that. Like that's trying to know about yourself. What information do you need surfaced in your life so that you don't have to be juggling it behind the scenes is an aspect of hey, project management, right back to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's difficult because like I think in our businesses, there's so many points of contact, I mean, there's our phone, there's our text, there's email, there's our website contact forms, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's so many ways that people can reach out to us. So I think having it all, initially I try to check all of that stuff, but then once you get that client onboarded, I'm like, we only communicate through the app because there's just so many ways it can get missed. Like just the other day, I had a client who notoriously books dog walks late, which is fine. We can usually accommodate her. But she used to always text me and say, hey, do you guys have time to walk my dog? And I would get back to her. And then I finally, like one day I missed the text, or I probably did what you said, I was doing stuff and I glanced at it and said, I'll get back to that later. And totally slipped my mind until like 3:00. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. This happened. I said, I tell you what, let's always ask this through the chat in our software. That way, even if I miss it, one of my staff will see it and they can say, they'll let me know, oh, hey, I can do that walk. And so I'm like, and that's happened on like 3 different occasions since I told her to start using the software. So it's been so nice because sometimes I don't see it if I'm busy doing something. So, like it happened yesterday, actually, one of my sitters messaged me on Slack and said, hey, I saw that, Gabby needs a walk. I can do that after so-and-so. And I'm like, oh, great, thanks. And I hadn't even seen the message come over yet. So it's really nice to have that. So I think it's important to, like you said, train your clients how you want them to communicate. So that's key.
Yeah. Because it does make sure things don't slip through the cracks, right? Because that's a big aspect of one of the things about the peace of mind that we bring to the table is never missing anything or having all of the details. And if that's all reliant on me and my poor sleep-addled brain, like, good luck, right, everybody? Like, this is not what we want. That's not how we want to represent our company to our clients. And that then when we're able to present, I think part of this of building trust with clients, yes, it's showing a good face, it's being professional in front of them, it's being able to communicate well and being able to put them at ease. Part of that comes in talking about your systems that you have in place, talking up everything that you have, all the lattice and support structures that you have in your business. You don't have to walk through every, egregious detail or, that you have in place, but some clients need that to know the kind of company that they're working with.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's really important to set those boundaries up front. So, or those expectations.
Well, boundaries too. Do you have office hours and times of communication that when clients can or can't or shouldn't be?
Well, loosely, yes. I do say that my hours for the office are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and like 9 to 1 on Saturday. Okay. But honestly, if I'm sitting around and, watching TV or cleaning up the kitchen or something, if somebody calls, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to answer it unless it's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. Sure. But I do answer the phone after 5, but I still advertise that those are my office hours. And I try not to go in and like approve visits and everything until the following morning. So that is sort of a little bit of a boundary, I guess, unless it's like a last minute thing. So I do have office hours set, but I don't always follow them myself.
Same. Yeah. Same. And everybody has that little bit of a wiggle room in what they do. And we are looking and seeing and trying, but I think it's really important to ask, you mentioned it there going, is this a last minute? Is this an emergency request? That should always be that first screen when it's outside of office hours. And then going, if it is, okay, I do need to take a few minutes to sit down and address this. If it's not, this is going to wait till tomorrow. I mean,
Correct.
and that's hard because what is that? We're talking about training clients. If you say my office hours are 9 to 5, and then they're submitting requests and getting confirmations or whatever back to them, or you're responding back to them after that, well, they're just going to continue to send those things after 5, right? And then if you don't one day, they're going to be asking, did this happen? Did this go through? What's going on? I usually get get response. And you're going to be like, oh, that's not actually what I want. So keeping in mind how you want to live your life, and then going, what do I structure around that? Is one way to kind of move forward through that.
Yeah, I definitely try to like certain responses and things that you can set up. I schedule them to go out the next morning. I still may do them that night, but I schedule them to not go out until like 8 or 9 in the morning when technically office hours start, so that helps some. But yeah, sometimes I forget to do that schedule thing. So they do slip through sometimes.
Now, I know you also have quite a lot of reviews across different platforms there. Are you purposefully asking for those, or kind of how are you going about that process?
Yes, we absolutely ask for them.
Ah,
I over the years, I've kind of developed a process. So, and this is part of my SOPs because eventually I want to hire an office admin person. So I'm working on that. But basically, our process is we like if it's a new client or even an existing client that's never left us a review, for our vacation clients, when they go on vacation, we always have them check in with us when they return to make sure their pets are, back in their care and we don't need to do another visit. And then about 3 to 5 days after they return, I schedule a message to go out in Time to Pet asking them for a review. It's just a saved reply within Time to Pet that you can just set up and send. So that goes out, like I said, 3 to 5 days after their return. I always try to do it like on a weekend because I know, people that come back from vacation, sometimes it takes them a couple days to get back into their groove and then they have to go to work. So I try to schedule it like for a Saturday or Sunday because then they have maybe a little more time to sit down and write the review. And I always leave them links to our different platforms, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sorry, Instagram, Facebook, Google, and Nextdoor is usually where I ask for the reviews. So I leave them a link so they can go directly to the review thing. They don't have to scroll around looking for it. Then for my daily dog walking clients, usually once they've used us, started with us, and after we've walked their dogs for a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, then I'll send them a request for review. So I usually get a decent response. Obviously there's some people who just never leave reviews and that's totally fine. And then I never want to like do an email blast to everyone asking for a review because you don't want to get 10, 20 reviews at once because then people assume that they're fake. So I like to set them up when they come back, when everything's fresh in their mind. Plus, then you're making sure they're happy because you're doing that follow up to make sure they got home. And then if there's anything that they want to maybe have a grievance about at that point, they would let you know. So if they do, then you're probably not going to request that review. But as long as they don't, then you send that request for review. And I'm actually, I haven't implemented this yet, but I want to start doing a follow up phone call with each client when they come back from vacation, maybe not that first day, but maybe a day or two later, just doing a quick phone call, just saying, this is Kimberly, just wanted to make sure that your services went well, that you're happy, if there's anything we can do to improve, because I think that personal touch really helps to kind of seal the deal with them, as far as even if maybe they're not happy, then maybe they at least appreciate you following up and listening to them. So that's something that I'm going to start implementing really soon, but I haven't yet. And so hopefully that'll help to get more reviews as well, because at that point, if they say, yes, we were very happy, with so-and-so sitter or this or that, then you can say, well, hey, would you mind leaving a review for them? And then maybe follow up with that text, sending them that link. So that's hopefully something I'll start soon.
Well, and will you do that within that 3 to 5 day time period as well?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even a little sooner, maybe a day or two later, because if they do have any issues with the services, that gives them the opportunity to tell me, and then for me to try to make it right with them, so that even if they do leave a review, it's not going to be a bad one. because
Right.
everybody likes to leave those bad reviews. They're quick to do that, but well, not everybody, but a lot of people. But then when you ask for a positive, it's sometimes harder to get that. So,
It-
but I think that'll go a long way with trying to encourage them to leave that positive review.
Well, and the other aspect too that I know people who struggle with allowing people into their home is, am I ever going to see this person again? Like, is this a fly by night kind of company? Like, are they just going to disappear and ghost me on these things? And then us, you showing back up with a phone call and saying, hi, I want to talk about your recent experience with us and just see how everything went. If there's any feedback you have for us or anything we can do better next time, that really takes like, oh, this person isn't going anywhere. Right? Like this person is invested, because we all talk about, oh, we want to build a relationship and we want these things. But if we don't have touch points with our clients, there will be no relationship built, which means that we shouldn't be surprised when they don't respect our boundaries and when they don't follow our procedures and whenever they're not really the best client.
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely think that the more personal touch you can give them, the better. I mean, I know personally for me, if I were to use a service and they were to follow up with me via phone a couple days later, that would really make me feel special and important, and make me feel like they care about me and what my experience is. So that's why I want to start implementing that really soon.
Yeah. Well, that's super exciting. I'm very interested to see how that goes. And I know a
Yeah.
lot of people are scared of phone calls, or that's not their biggest forte. So that may be a struggle for other people, for us. But I think just going, I have a purpose. Maybe I've got a little bit of a script, and I'm not going to be the one doing a lot of talking. I'm just going to be asking some prompting questions, and then, you know, jumping off the phone call, or saying, okay, thank you for your time, kind of thing, and realizing I do need this, that this feedback is valuable to me, and hopefully that's enough to prompt an action on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm looking forward to actually implementing that. I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay. Yeah. Kimberly, are you running the business you thought you'd be running back in 2016?
No,
No. Okay.
absolutely not.
Okay.
No, I'll be honest. In 2016, like I said, when I quit my corporate job and started the company, I thought I would remain solo. And I was like, I'll be happy if I make like 12,000 a year or so, and just be happy. And then, like I said, I never thought that I would actually have a business with employees and, all that stuff. So definitely totally different than what I expected when I got started.
Uh, yeah, making that jump and just seeing how big it goes, right, as you go along, of going, man. And did you ever ask yourself, like, is this what I like? Is this what I want? Is this the company? Like, do you ever struggle with kind of all of the operating and things and moving pieces that you have on? Do you look and go, yeah, this is still what I'm passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, I do, like I said, there's days when you struggle, I think, but overall, yes, I'm very passionate about it. I love the business. I love what it's grown to. I love working with the clients, with the staff. Um, I love doing all the organizational things, doing the SOPs. I love structure. So I love putting all that together and kind of like you said, the puzzle pieces together. I actually enjoy doing scheduling, which most people are probably like,
You're
what?
a rare person indeed, Kimberly.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's like you said, it's like a puzzle. It's like, I look at the schedule and like we have our regulars, that are always on the schedule. And then somebody pops in and says, okay, I need a visit. So you have to look at where this best fits in, who you have available, where their location is and who's familiar with them and all that. So to me, that's kind of like interesting and fun trying to fit that all together. Sometimes it gets frustrating, I will admit, but overall I enjoy doing stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I really love what I do, and even though I struggle at times, I think the business is definitely moving in the right direction, and I'm very hopeful that it will continue to grow, and I embrace that and I love that.
That's super cool, Kimberly. I'm so glad we got to talk today, and encouraging us to look for those deeper skills of those staff members, and to work really hard with building that trust with the clients at every single step along the way. But I know, I really love this conversation. I've got a lot of notes here for me to try. So thanks for my homework. But no, it means a lot for you to take the time out of your day. I know there's a lot here. And so if people are interested in organization stuff, staying on task, some more of your processes, or they just want to follow along with all the cool stuff that you're doing, how best can people do that?
Yeah, Yeah, sure. So our website is kimberlyskrittercare.com, and that's critter with a K. And it's a little odd. That's our website. And then my email is kimberlyskrittercare@gmail.com. So definitely could reach out that way. You can also feel free to call me if you like. I don't know if I should give my number on here or they can look it up on the website, but I'm happy to take phone calls or text or DMs, whatever, anybody that I'm happy to help people out. We have a local network here in Charleston and we all help each other out, with questions and stuff. So I'm definitely happy to help anybody who has questions on that stuff. So
Awesome. Well, I'll have links to those in the show notes and on the website for people to get connected. And give you a call if they need to pick your brain more. But Kimberly, I've really appreciated and really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for taking your time today.
absolutely. I enjoyed it too, Colin. Thank you.
Are you running the business that you thought you'd be running when you started? Really take a moment to consider that in all the facets. And I think importantly, one major part of that is, are you doing the things that you thought you'd be doing? Do you enjoy them? Or do you need to make some changes? This could either mean that you need to hire or change your services or change your business operations and organizational structures. We're not talking about whether you feel like you're successful or your business is successful. It's, are you doing the thing you wanted to do in the beginning? Plain and simple. And if it's not, what steps can we take to get there? And if it is, or maybe you fall in love with new portions of it, how do you make sure that you have more of that in your life? We want to thank today's sponsors, Time to Pet and Pet Perennials, for making the show possible. And thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll be back again soon.